Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast, where we're back once again to help to educate you on becoming much more confident, as well as having more control in investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And on today's show, if you've ever wanted to figure out how to understand more about the commercial lending environment, then guess what? You're going to want to stick around for this entire conversation because it's sure to be amazing. So today's guest is not only a creative lending expert, he's also an investor, a strategist, as well as a syndicator. And for today, I would like to welcome Mr. Billy Brown. Welcome to the show, Billy.
Billy Keels, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on your show and help educate your followers on what we could do to help them invest in real estate and how leverage is powerful and fun.
Fantastic. You know, this is the first Billy and Billy show, so I'm really excited about that as well.
The inaugural Billy show.
There you go. It's the first of many. So listen, Billy, before we start jumping into the content, there's a couple things that I'd love to start the show out with. Really is to understand, first and foremost, help us to understand, what city are you in right now in the United States?
Nashville, Tennessee, home of country music.
Nashville, Tennessee. It's a wonderful place. Is it 2nd Avenue in Nashville?
Yeah, everyone knows about Broadway, 2nd Avenue.
There you go. Okay, perfect. I was there.
All the honky tonks.
Yeah, I've been there. Love it. It's a great place. Second thing, so Nashville, Tennessee. Second thing, love for you to help us understand, basically, what's the best thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Man, I tell you what, I mean, I know it's going to air for quite a while, but I actually got a standing desk. I'm actually sitting right now because I've got used to it, but I got an adult desk that arrived yesterday and got installed. And I feel, talk about investing in your space. I actually chose to invest in myself and my space. It's probably the first time ever. That's a whole other mindset thing. But yeah, it's like I actually got a desk, and it's pretty killer. It's not falling apart, and yeah, it's awesome. So.
I think it's phenomenal. And I even got to watch you elevate the desk before we started recording. So that is a good thing. So listen, Billy, we're gonna have a pretty awesome conversation, and I know that we've had a chance to get to know one another, and I'd really want to have you talk to our audience, help them understand a little bit about some of the decisions that you've made and what's gotten you to this point in your journey as an investor and as a creative lending expert.
So the journey started probably back in 2009. I actually got hired to be a residential mortgage lender with a company called Church and Mortgage. Started learning finance, liked it, but I didn't like the constraints of residential lending. So I actually left there, tried to do some investing stuff, and then actually jumped back in as a commercial lender. Back was almost 4 years ago. Landed with a company down in Franklin, Tennessee, and we parted ways because our avatar was different. So I went out on my own in October. But man, I tell you what, the lending has always been there, and I'd always had. And this is a key point for your listeners. I'd always owned rental properties, but I was not an investor. It's a key mindset there.
Interesting.
As I started learning more and more about deeper into the commercial lending and actually the fundamentals of all of it, is when I decided to become an investor. Of course, went to Cedars syndication, learned about syndication, and decided was that 2018, 2019 to go do my first syndication in 2019. And I put it out there for the entire world. There's a meetup here that Seth Mosley puts on called Music and Money. It's fantastic. It's online for anyone that's musicians and loves real estate. I put it out there in February of 2019. Then I was going to syndicate a 100-unit apartment complex by June 30th, 2019. That was an 8 cap existing. And I was going to do it. And fast forward, I was actually speaking in April, so I had about 2,200 accountability partners. And in April, we actually got something under contract that was only 81 units, and we actually closed July 8th. So that was the first one we did. And a partner with somebody. That's another key, guys. Is to be able to partner with people, not do it by yourself. Hit all the high notes, 8 cap. So it's with the uplift. Probably going to get to 10.5 or 11 when it's all said and done, about 3 years. And then we followed up. We sold one of our single family homes, actually the first home I owned, and we 1031 did a like kind exchange into a office complex in my wife's hometown. And the key point for you guys to know there is wife's hometown. I get cash flow, and it's a tax write-off every time we go see it. So it pays for our family vacations.
That's not bad.
It was a unicorn, as a 12,000 square foot office complex that is occupied by a multinational, multi-billion-dollar accounting firm. And it's on a triple net lease, which means the tenants pay for everything: taxes, insurance, maintenance, everything. So it's truly passive. So as far as my philosophy, I'm a generalist. I like kind of whatever it is. We've done multifamily. I like multifamily, but things are so tight right now. Office is typically pretty good depending on your tenant base. I don't really like mobile home parks just because I don't like the tenant base is going to be what's going to attract. But self-storage, all that, I'm open to anything really. The one that I'm learning about right now, my friend is in is light industrial, and that seems to be very, very good right now. So combine the commercial lending knowledge where the money's at, and combine the investor knowledge, and it's kind of dangerous. The only thing you got to worry about is bandwidth. So I've had to be a little more picky about what we're going to spend some time on, what we're not going to spend time on. So.
Okay. Fantastic. So there's a lot to unpack there, right? So getting started in 2009, fast forward, it's over a decade of experience and having played in different spaces. You understand what works for you, what doesn't, as you built your team. And, this is one of the other things that I just completely love about real assets in general is depending on if you want to focus your energy and your time and your effort, you can create it. And one of the things you've already mentioned is that which spaces that you don't want to play in, that you prefer not to play in. And I think that is something that many people forget. They kind of chase every single shiny object. And sometimes it's about saying no to things. So
and if you're a newer investor, there's so many gurus out there selling so many programs about how to do whatever, wholesale to flip to whatever. Learn about them. Take everything with a grain of salt. None of these guys are trying to sell your course and actually make more money from their course than actually do their own business. Know that. There's some good takeaways there, but you've got to learn what doesn't work for you. You got to know what is your lifestyle. Not every asset is right for you. And you just got to eliminate those ones that aren't. So learn about them, learn about the good, the bad, the ugly, and just go, okay, that's unfit me. And just start eliminating stuff. It's amazing how good you're going to feel when you start eliminating things and actually start focusing on, okay, well, here's the ones that are left. Let's focus on those instead of like one or two that we actually want to get into, and just dive deep into it and see if it's something you want to jump into. It's okay if you say no. There's plenty of there's 100 ways to make money in real estate as an investor, not just owning properties. I mean, it's amazing. it's fantastic. If you partner with the right people, the sky's the limit. It's unlimited, really.
So that is that's a piece of gold there. So one of the things, so just I guess let's get the elephant that's in the room. Let's get it out of the room. So I talked about you being a creative lending expert and wanting to help educate once again. Lots of people have gone into the bank, and I love the way that you said it, that before you were investing and later you became an investor. Is that what you said? Is that correct?
I owned investment properties, and now I'm an investor.
Okay. Now you owned before, and now you're an investor. So I love that.
Key mindset there.
Can I use that in the future? Later. Can I use that in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks. So the thing is, as we're thinking, for those that are watching us now or listening, they're thinking, okay, well, why would I go? What's the difference between going to my bank, call it whatever major city that you live in, because they're all over the place, versus working with someone who has a creative lending type of business like yours?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question. So lenders, well, let me put it this way. First and foremost, fundamentals of real estate investing do not change depending on the lenders. They do not change. Fundamentals are fundamentals are fundamentals. Tactics do change. Fundamentals do not. When you know the fundamentals of real estate investing, you can become creative. That's very key. You got to know the fundamentals before you can become creative. When you become creative, then there's other outlets to go find the funding that you go need if the asset needs it. Lending is a tool. Not every bank has the tools that you need. You need to know what tools you need to go get. So where I come in is we reverse engineer the process going, here's the asset, here's the exit strategy, here's where it's at. We go and create the strategy and sequence it out and then go implement that strategy amongst our many lenders because I know what ticks their boxes and what doesn't. It saves time. That's all it does. You go to big box, whatever it is, they really don't do real estate unless it's probably about 5 or 6 or 7 million. Then you get to some guys that are very, very, very choosy because they have to be. Mm-hmm. On down, you get the regional community bank style stuff, and you can get a little bit better lending there. But you still got to know what you're doing. You got to be within their area, and that's the key. We got an ebook out that actually describes that mentality from the banker standpoint, what they're actually looking for, and why you should try to be attractive to them. But one of the things is where are you and where's the asset? And sometimes the banks are going, hey, if the asset's in our backyard, we're good. We're cool with that. I don't care where you're at. Others are both the borrower and the asset have to be there or within a short amount of drive. It's called a footprint. So that's where depository institutions come in. And then you've got, on top of that, they want a relationship. They're not transactional. Because if you know anything about banking is they borrow money from you in the form of deposits, combine it with, Federal Reserve borrowing, and then they lend it back out to you or your neighbor for whatever that is. That's how they make money in arbitrage. So they got to have deposits to make money. And if you don't bring deposits, they're not transactional. They don't want that. Now, the flip side of that on the creative side is actually I do have lenders that are transactional. They're still relational. They don't want you to just be like one and done. They don't like that type of world. They like professionals. But their entire business is to loan money. They don't care about deposits. Now, because of that, their cost of funds is higher because they're borrowing it from institutions. They got to pay a little higher spread there. As far as a higher cost and higher spread, but their entire thing there is, hey, we've got money to go lend, and we want to go lend it, and here's where the box is going to be, and they're going to sell the paper to Wall Street, recapitalize, and move on. So, yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. And there was one of the things that you said at the very beginning, which I also find very valuable, is that as long as you understand the fundamentals, the tactics are what change. So from a lending perspective, when you talk about the fundamentals, just help educate us once again on what you mean by that.
Yeah, so the fundamentals are pretty simple. You have to have your own money into the deal, skin in the game. There's a whole bunch of burst strategy out there as far as using fast and loose money called hard money. And there's ways to go do this in the right way, but you do you use that and then you refinance out of it and you have no money into things. Lenders do not like that. Lenders don't like, having no money into deals because of you can walk away at any time when things go bad. That's reality. If you have no money into it, you can walk away and there's no skin in the game. Lenders want skin in the game. So that's the rule number 1. 2 is it has to cash flow. You have to know what net operating income is. Now, there's some lenders out there on the creative side that are just a flat, I call it the low standard NOI calculation as far as debt servicing. Gross rents divided by mortgage payments plus taxes plus insurance plus association. That's it. As long as it meets the threshold of 1.25, which means you got 25% more income than you do expenses, excuse me, they'll lend on it. An investor will calculate true NOI. Vacancies, property management, CapEx, those sorts of things, and then net down to true NOI. And that's where you have your debt servicing. You might have a little bit lower debt servicing because you're actually factoring reserves, but you still need to have that. Bank lenders, depository lenders are going to be usually a 20, 25-year AM, depending on the asset class, whereas the non-bank lenders are going to go up to 30-year. There's some advantages there if you go
I was just going to say, can we just stop right there? Because I want to make sure that we don't leave anybody behind here. So when you talk about when a 25 or 30 year so amortization period, help us understand what that means.
So the amount of time we have to pay back the loan. So obviously the longer the loan, their longer amortization, the smaller the payments, so you get more cash flow. Now the shorter the amortization, 20 year, the higher the payments and the less the cash flow, but your pay down is faster. So it's which one you want. And it goes back to your tax strategy there. You may not want the cash flow. You're always going to have cash flow because you have to meet the lender standards. And there's some tax advantages to that because you can deduct here in the States depreciation as well as mortgage interest. It's usually close to zero. But it boils down to actually a tax strategy there. If you actually just want to pay it down and have an asset there, that you go sell and take a capital gain and jump up, or if you actually just want the cash flow. So you got to match that investment with your overall strategy. This is kind of the point there.
So I wanted to stop there as well, because one of the things that you're already talking about, and I asked you the question earlier, that maybe some of the differences between yourself or working with one of the big boxes in this conversation, you're already talking about the tax strategy. So you're starting with the end in mind, right? We talk about Stephen Covey and starting with the end in mind and being able to work backwards. You talked about that in the very beginning, and it's coming out in the conversation that we're having right now, which is something that as you sit down and really understand what the investor is looking for, you can also help to, give them the best recommendations based on what the end game is. Would you say that's?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is just match that. And sometimes I can't help them other than have them ask questions because their assets like too small or outside of an area. Just kind of guide them. But you think about it this way: do you want McDonald's when it comes to your investments? I mean, everyone thinks the same. That's why people get out of the mutual fund stuff. You don't have a whole lot of choices there. You want ketchup and mustard. That's your two choices. It's still the same burger, whether it's here, you're or wherever. It's still the same burger.
I bet you we could get the same burger here in Barcelona as in Nashville.
Yeah,
the exact
exactly.
Same.
So, where I come in as more of a concierge, going, Billy Keels, you want to invest in real estate? Tell me about that. What do you got? We're going to go help coach you through this and go, okay, well, based on that and based on what you're going to buy, here are the lenders that are going to make sense for you. And because of that, here's the lenders going to make sense for you. Here's their lending policy. And here's that's going to affect your cash flow. Does that meet what we started out to go do? Yes or no? If not, we got to change tactics. Versus you go into a depository lender and they go, hey, I need to talk to a commercial lender about buying this. And they sit down and schmooze you. They may take you lunch and like, hey, yeah, absolutely. And I'll send us your personal financial statement if the last year tax returns, and then information on the property, we'll run it up. A couple of days later, get back to you. Oh yeah, we like that. Come in. Absolutely. We'll get the rest of the documentation in there. 3 weeks later, you don't hear from them, and you're going, well, where's it at? Like, what's going on here? It's like, oh yeah, we like it, but we're going to be maybe, we're going to need you to bring like 40 or 45% down because it just doesn't cash flow right now. Like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I'm supposed to pay cash for it versus lending. Why don't you tell me on the front end? Because they didn't ask the question. They don't know how to, because most commercial lenders are not investors. So first question for your guys out there that are going out there trying to go do something on your own is, when you talk to a commercial lender, hey, do you own investment properties your own? They say, oh, no, I just like to lend on it. And I just, we've thought about it or whatever. Thank them for their time, walk away. It's not, they can't help you. I mean, they can help you, but they can't really help you.
They've never walked in they've never walked in your shoes, and it's going to be much more challenging for them to do the exact same thing.
Well, so they've never risked their own money.
Yeah.
They've never risked their own money. So if they've never risked their own money, how comfortable do you feel them risking your money? Now, let's back up here. Lenders are a friend. I mean, let's always tell people, like, lenders are a friend. Mm-hmm. They're coming as a debt partner versus equity partner. It's going to make you a lot of money. But I want somebody who's actually been there and has scared of, what's going on. Like, are they going to make rents this month, or, they got a vacancy, or they got a rehab, or they got something burned down. I want people to go that have been there because they know what it is. They risk their own money, go grow themselves, not just have a job. And this is something to say here because you're going to be most people are going to say this, but the number one job of a commercial lender as far as the bank side is not to get fired. And they'll tell you that. Then don't get fired. Don't bring something stupid to the table. Don't get fired. That's it. Because they got a cush job, and That's what their mentality is. For investors is we're going to go grow and we're going to take risks. We want to take risks because the only way to grow is to take risks.
Yep. And you take those very calculated risks and you work with the right team members that can understand your situation, help to advise you on what they see from their point of view in order to get you across the goal line, which is continuing to grow your business. Right.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of those things make sense. You've thrown out a couple of other kind of different terms, but just curious. So when you talk about being able to come up with a specific offer for a particular person, Billy Keels, where you're just using me, what are some of the different elements that go into determining what my ultimate terms and conditions are?
Well, it's the 4 C's. It's not it's not a 50s rock band. It's the 4 C's of lending. I mean, you got your credit, like how credit are you? I mean, you paid your bills, credit score, and all that. Your character, who Billy Keels is. I'm going to make a couple phone calls. Lending's tight. We got LinkedIn. If I see something personal financial statement, I know where the loan's at or where your deposits are. It's a quick phone call to check you out. Then you've got the just last of the
your credit so far, our character.
Yep. Yeah, you got character. You got credit, and you got collateral is the third one. And the collateral is basically what you think of as asset. Where's it at? Where are you at? Because a lot of lenders actually don't lend on the assets you're in or where it's at, and that's just the truth. You're going to figure out what it is. You're going, hey, like the property we bought in Wisconsin. We're here. My wife's from there, and it's the first question I said is the asset is perfect. The asset is fine. Let's just debt services at a 1.5 right off the bat.
Wow. We
are in Nashville. The property is there. My family, my in-laws live up there. Are you okay with that for your lending policy to lend to an out-of-state investor? Can you mitigate that with this? Run it up before we talk about anything else.
I think that is so that is phenomenal. So we're talking about the credit, we're talking about the character, we've talked about the collateral, and I actually wanted to just make a comment on that as well, because two comments before we go to the last one. But there is, with me being in Barcelona, Spain, and having assets in multiple states back in the United States, I know that it's something that's come up multiple times for me in terms of being able to understand, okay, well, where do you live? Where do you reside? And where are the particular assets?
Yep.
And I know that team has been one of the main reasons that has allowed my company to continue to grow and expand in the way that it does, because I prefer to reside in Europe and live in the US. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that, just having that distance. And because we're here to talk about investing beyond your backyard, maybe another good point to drill down on a bit.
And this goes to the fourth one, which is the capacity. So, but brain capacity is the one. Literally is like it is one of the things I put in this word. Capacity is how much bandwidth you have to go invest in it. Obviously, I don't have the bandwidth to actually have this conversation. So if you want a humble commercial lender that's very detail oriented, come to me. Just kidding.
Right.
No, but the capacity. What is your capacity? Because you can't go manage something in Spain that's in Memphis. Right. You have to have a team there to go manage it. Now, here's the other thing: if it's a small 1 to 4 unit property, and you have the cash flow to cover the asset by itself, and that's it subsidizing it, lender doesn't really care. They know you're good. You've got money there to go do it. Investor mindset. That's an investment property. Investor mindset says this thing's going to cash flow on its own. And that's where you get the bigger stuff that this matters as far as capacity, because you have to have a team member on the loan to be able to get the lender's attention, because you may have out of state, out of area, out of the country investors, but if they're not alone, well, you can walk away. The lenders are very negative. They always think about what's the worst case can happen. Can they live with it? For something like this, like dude can walk away and we got nothing but this crappy property. We don't want the property. We want the money. We want to be able to make money off the debt. So your team, who is going to sign on the loan and also back this thing and say, hey, we're going to make this thing whole if something happens, matters. So when you go, if you're out of area investor investing in a certain area, you've got to have somebody some boots on the ground there to be able to be on the loan and say, hey, yeah, we've got this person to help manage it. They got these skill sets and they're going to sign the loan, whether it's, maybe a smaller amount, but they're going to back it as well. That really makes the lender feel very, very good, as long as the down payment, matters for skin in the game, making sure you're not going to walk away just because it's hard.
And so, Billy, this is another area where I see that you are uniquely qualified to add value, especially for people that are looking to invest beyond their backyard, either directly or with other teams, because not only are you a lending expert, but you're an investor, you're a long distance investor, because you mentioned multiple times now that you live in Tennessee and you have rental properties or assets that are in other states. So just to give people an idea, and I don't even know, I'm putting myself out on a limb here, but from Nashville to where your properties are in Wisconsin, I'm going to assume that it's at least a 2-hour flight, if not more.
It's it's an hour flight and an hour drive.
Okay. All right. So here you're uniquely qualified to be able to, once again, look in the role as a strategist to help people understand, okay, well, what are some of the different impacts? Who are the different members that you're going to need on your team to not only obtain the cash, but also to be able to protect it and have the right pitch to the individual. But would you say that's fair?
Yeah, it boils down again, it goes back to fundamentals. You can be creative once you know the fundamentals. And if those are the fundamentals, where the lender comes in and gets your friend, it's not that they don't want to lend on it. They just want to make sure that you are not going to get in over your head. And because it's like a parent, like you don't want them to do something and they're going to find a way to go do it if they're stupid enough, and they may or may not get away with it. But at the same time, like, trust me, we've seen it. These lenders have been in banking for hundreds and hundreds of years. They know the stuff that's going to go wrong, and they've seen it. They can mitigate against it. It's in your best interest to listen to them. And follow it. And again, this goes back to what we're saying for the fall 2020 here is there's going to be opportunities. Do you want to be try to go find the exception or be what the lender wants to lend on and be having lenders fight over you? Again, it's about the fundamentals. Once you have the fundamentals, then you have lots of choices. You don't have the fundamentals down, you have no choices. You only take what's available to you, and it becomes expensive debt, and it could get really ugly. So follow the fundamentals. If study them, know what they are, and then of course, I'm here to help folks out as far as know what they are, make sure they're not their heads. But yeah, if you're going to buy something like you're from out of the area, that's the first question you're going to get asked is, who else is going to be on the team in the area? It's like, hey, I heard Memphis was pretty good.
Yeah, and
I got a property manager. So what?
Yeah. And this is a value that you're able to bring, right? Because you're not just reading it from a hymn sheet, you've actually done it. So you're speaking from experience as an investor, as well as an experienced lending expert.
You asked me how I know.
Right, exactly. Hey, so just speaking of which, going along podcast, you made the decision, and we've talked about some of the benefits for you and your family of investing beyond your backyard. And we never pretend here that investing long distance is something that's easy to do. You definitely need to have a team, things like that. But what was your motivation for investing long distance?
I wanted bigger. Quite honestly, it was ego. Flat out. I saw a lot of friends that were investing, doing syndications and all that. I was like, I should be able to do this. I'm a commercial lender. I know a hell lot more than they do about the lending side of things, yet they're able to get these big things done, and I'm not. So it's just I want to go do it. And plus we needed the cash, the tax write-off.
Okay. So
we, that's a big thing there as far as the tax benefits. That cost segregation going into this year is fantastic. It's beautiful. But yeah, just the out of the area. The other reason is Nashville is, believe it or not, very, very hot as far as the assets and costs here. You've got there's no juice left in the squeeze. Yeah. And in fact, I've got a property I'm trying to sell right now just because it's like, hey, I can recoup 10 years of cash flow. I sell to somebody, and the 6.5 cap, that's going to be great for somebody. For me, it's like, I can go find something else better now. I can go find a 10 or 12 because I know where to go look.
And this is one of the things, another thing to talk about. So, and I know you're focused on helping educate people in this whole concept of equity that's trapped in someone's asset. So maybe you could just speak to that at a really high level, so you can help people understand from a very practical example how you are educating people, but also that they're be able to benefit from something that they probably are not even thinking about.
Yeah. So right now, with lenders wanting more cash in deals, most people are cash poor because investors have put money in their properties. They want secure. They want real estate to be able to put something into, and cash is trash. Now we're with the flip side of that, like, hey, I'm going to go buy something. Now I used to be able to buy something with 10% down. Now it's going to be 20, 25% down. They don't have the cash. It's all tied to the property. So what I end up doing is doing a, as properties value more and they pay down the debt, there's a spread there, there's an equity. So we come in and cross collateralize the properties. We've got multiple properties, and we don't strip all the equity, but we harvest it. Like a farmer does. We leave, half the seed for future growth and half the seed to go plant another field. And, that's just basically liquid there. And depending on the size and the asset class, and you can sometimes go non-recourse, which is also very, very nice.
So I'm going to stop you there really quickly. I'm going to stop you there because with the difference between, once again, with just educating high level, when you talk about recourse versus non-recourse, help us understand what that means.
Recourse means if it's the fan and you owe $500,000 on a property and the lender sells it for $400,000, you're going to get a knock on the door from an attorney. Said, Billy Keels, we've sold your asset. If you're giving it back to us for $400,000, you still owe us $100,000. We know that you have funds in your IRA and your savings, as well as your kids' college fund. We're going to come collect that from you or put a lien on your property. Mm-hmm. That's what that means. Non-recourse means, if they can't recoup what the loan is, they're not coming after you personally. That's all it is.
Okay, perfect.
Now,
So
there's carve outs there, but there's bad boy carve outs. But if you're right with what you're doing, you're fine.
Okay, and so basically, in a recourse situation, they're coming after the individual. In a non-recourse, they're coming after the asset.
Sign of the asset. Yeah. Okay. And it only happens on larger deals, usually $500,000 to $1 million and above.
Yep. Okay.
And not the smaller stuff. No.
Perfect. Makes sense. So look, we've talked about a lot of different things. You've helped us understand from you getting into the game in 2009, having played in a number of different spaces, really carving out your niche in the creative lending space. And you've demonstrated in this conversation, it's not just about lending, it's about understanding the individual, more importantly, their end game. What are they trying to do? What do they want the real asset to provide for themselves, for their families, et cetera, or for their investors? And you being able to sit down with them, understand their situation, strategize, and come up with the best lending solution possible for them, and taking into consideration a number of other things. You've clearly demonstrated in this conversation. So I'm just curious, kind of like, what's next for you, Billy?
Yeah. So the what's next, what we're doing is, instead of just basically being a transactional type of service where we're actually, hey, Billy Keels needs a loan, I can facilitate it. We're actually providing some educational content. I got the ebook out there for folks, and we're actually going to do a video series that's paid, and then a coaching program to help folks to execute. And the big thing there is, the number of people I can go help is actual help. The transaction is, 2 out of 10, because a lot of them aren't ready for commercial. They've done the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac mortgages, and they're trying to go to commercial, and they're just not ready for it. They're not ready. They're too amateur to attract a lender. So that's what the ebook is, to actually prepare them. And then the video series is to go step up their game. And then the coaching is to help them execute. So the kind of stuff where you really be able to help out a lot of people. Because I can't go help somebody out in, Mesquite, Nevada, go buy a, $400,000 quadplex. I can't go facilitate that for them. And it doesn't benefit me to go spend hours on them, educating them on this. So we provide that content out there to be able to go to help out. So that's what I've been focusing on there. And I also have a side project, which is, we'll talk about that one, around golf. That is very, very cool. We've talked about this.
Yeah,
and
we have.
I got to send you some renderings. This is badass. This is badass.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing that. Listen, Billy, we've come to the part of the conversation where I really want to ask you 3 questions. We call it the going long final 3 questions, but I never ask the questions unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you the questions. Are you ready?
I am ready, Sensei.
Fantastic. Final exam. Here is the first question. that has to do with, well, just connecting people more and more. I started asking you where you were in the United States. And with me being here in Europe, I'm really interested in understanding from you, what is your favorite European city that's on your bucket list or that you visited already?
Well, I got two answers there. One is I actually visited Russia, in Moscow, Russia. I went there for the Millennial New Year's.
Wow.
Nice. When we thought we were all going to die because of Y2K.
Right. 20 years
my
later.
wife, for her 40th birthday, wants to go to Ireland and go visit all that. So probably Dublin is hers. So we're probably going to go to Dublin.
All right.
Maybe we'll make a stop in Barcelona if you're there.
Hey, do it. I'd love that. I've got a lot of things to show you. So perfect. And also I'm going to assume, Billy, and if I know we should not assume too many things, but you're a successful entrepreneur, a strategist, expert lender, investor, which means you've probably made one or two mistakes along the way, just assuming. And if that's in fact the case, you've probably learned a lesson or two from those mistakes. And so I'm just going to make it really simple for you. What one lesson would you pass forward to someone else from a mistake that you've learned in the past?
Man, we need to do a whole podcast on this. I mean, seriously, this is, you can learn so much.
Does that mean we can have you come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Back? Okay, awesome.
I mean, no joke. There's just off the office one, I had 14 mistakes I wrote down. Wow. It all started with this one, with this mistake, is I thought I could do it myself. That was the biggest one, because I did not hire my friend who cost me nothing, who's a CCIM commercial realtor, to go run point on the transaction.
Wow.
I thought I could go negotiate a better deal by using the same realtor that was a listing agent. And I thought I could go work my little magic and make a sales pitch and do all that. What ended up happening? That was a domino that caused a whole bunch of other pain and suffering as far as like delays. And it wasn't necessary. I mean, I hired my guy who is a professional who's done this as an investor. Like, it's done in 45 days. Like he's on it. He knows what's going on. He can go mitigate all the stuff going on. You don't know what you don't know. And you got to be able to hire that team. And it starts with a commercial realtor, not a residential. If you're going to go buy commercial, but hire a residential, right? A commercial realtor, and get one that's a CCIM designation. And you can go to ccim.com to be able to go look up those folks, or just ask me. I can tell you pretty much. Now, very little network, especially Southeast, who's a good person to go to.
Okay, perfect. So making sure that get the right team members on board, and definitely speed wins almost every single time. Yep. Last question, Billy, and it's a pretty simple one because I know you love to read, and so one of the things, and also you're a published author as well, best-selling author.
Coming out this summer, yeah.
Yeah. And the question is really about books. So I wanted to understand, what book would you recommend to the Going Long podcast audience? Well,
funny enough, we got a new book my wife actually bought. If anyone has read the Chicken Soup for the Soul, author Mark Victor Hansen, came out with a new book, and it parallels well with how I got my first apartment. And it's because I asked, and I got it right here. We'll hold it up there.
Sure. Awesome. Ask. The bridge from your dreams to your destiny. Awesome. And so if you're listening to us on whatever channel you're listening to us on, you should jump over to our video channels. We'll be on multiple channels, probably YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. So why don't you jump over and see us on the video channels? And Billy just actually showed the book. So
yeah, so that's one right there about asking, because when you ask great questions, you get great answers, and not of yourself, but of others and of God. And that's kind of what it boils down to there. And that paralleled perfectly with what really how we nailed our first apartment. Is I asked questions of how can I, and said, well, how can I use my skill sets to go do this, and knowing what I'm crappy at, back out of the way and actually find somebody that's great at what I'm crappy at, and we team together. And it's not fantastic, but it's flying a plane, steering a ship. Like, stuff happens. You can't be all things to all people, so you got to be able to have that team, the crew, to be able to make it right. And asking where it starts.
Awesome. So that's what it is. You find the yin to the yang kind of thing. And so that is awesome. So like I said, we've covered so many things. You've helped to educate us on a number of different aspects of the commercial lending space, demonstrating not only are you an expert in that area, you're also an investor. You know what it's like to go long distance in terms of investing beyond your backyard. I think that's phenomenal. You talked about a couple of things, and like, I just want to keep talking to you forever. Like, I just want to keep like talking to you for like another hour. And I'm sure the people that are watching and listening are like, me too. But listen, we can't keep talking forever, which means people are going to need to figure out how in the world can they get in touch with you so that they can continue the conversation with you and your team. So if you could do us a favor, Billy, let us know what the best way to get in touch with you or your team would be.
Yeah, real easy. It's my website, billybrown.me. That's it. Find out about me and where we're at. If you need to schedule a call, there's a link there to schedule a call, and there you go. Pretty simple.
Perfect. So it should be pretty easy. So everybody's listening. Billy, you all have that one in Brown, billybrown.me. So make sure you check out Billy at his website. I know he has a number of different videos, podcast interviews, assets that are there for you to go learn more about, become more educated in this area of commercial lending and the commercial lending space. And I know that Billy makes himself available as well for calls. So definitely take him up on the offer. Do that. And Billy, as you mentioned, you said you'd be back. So we're counting on you to be back and to continue the conversation and help to continue to educate us. So thanks for joining us on the podcast today, Billy.
Absolutely.
And for the Going Long audience, once again, this is an amazing opportunity for us to continue to connect with one another. I'm going to ask that you go out and at least share this with 2, maybe 3 other people, because in that way we can continue to grow our community with like-minded people, so we can have more great, wonderful educational guests like Billy. And I guess that's pretty much it. I want to wish everyone a fantastic day. Want to wish you, like I said, wish you a very fantastic day. Welcome you back for the next episode, and go out and make it a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.